Kevin Chaos, here to talk to you today about the chakras. There will be several parts to this, and much more to come in my upcoming app, so look out for updates on that. The chakras. I'm going to start by giving you as basic of an understanding as I can. Okay, 7 major chakra points, 7 dimensions, 7 heavens. We hear a lot of words thrown around, but for now, let's just focus on some of the descriptions of them, some basic understandings of each point, and we'll get into all the complicated stuff later, which is far less important than non-conceptual wisdom. Let's see. We'll start at number 1, the root. The root, or the base chakra, is all about survival. Raw power, formless form. Color red. Its positive affirmation for balance is I am. So that's the root. You could consider lower demons, demon channel, dementia, dimensional, to be not so much good versus bad, but lesser evolved. That all forms must have originally come from the chaos of the whole. That's it. And I'll show you a depiction of a little bit about how this works, to give you a greater understanding on ascension and descension, and that yes, you can lose enlightenment, and demons become angels and vice versa, and you'll get a little better understanding about what I'm talking about. Number 2 is the sacral. Okay, the sacral, also called the womb chakra, whereas the root is also called the base chakra, and I'm going to leave the Sanskrit words for some other time. The sacral or womb chakra is about sexuality. It's about feeling. Its positive affirmation is I feel. And to acknowledge that so that you may work responsibility and move past it. Number 3, the soul or plexus, solar chakra. Solar chakra is the seat of the personality. It is, as my friend once described it, the ego chakra, which I really like. In the left-hand path, it's basically the hell, left-hand, or darker power point. Whereas for the light, heaven, or positive, if you don't want to argue over words, power point would be the throat. Cross, an inverted cross. You notice also the double cross symbol in a lot of esoteric shit, and you'll start to understand what that really symbolizes. Even where some people know that and others don't, and still decide to use these symbols, and they play on the subconscious mind in a unique way. Non-conceptual, not needing that understanding for them to actually affect you. That is another reason why I encourage people to learn about symbols and to study into these things that they fear, rather than allowing fear to bind them. Because as soon as your mind understands what people might use a symbol for, it automatically becomes fortified and prepares itself. Psychic spiritual attack, psychological warfare. Your mind already puts up the necessary actions to prevent it, because you're like, oh, this is what they're trying to do, so without ever needing to think about it. Chakra 4, the heart chakra, the heart center, the connector. Some people say that this chakra has no gender, or doesn't stick to giving or taking in the traditional sense of the ebb and the flow, that it is both at the same time, that it connects our heaven to our hell, as above, so below. It is represented by the later perverted Jesus fish symbol that was originally upright and not pointed close, like a double helix. So to show that it spins in both directions is necessary. Chakra actually means spinning wheel. So, number 5. You see how there's an order to this? Like, not just numerically, but as evolution. Number 5 is the throat. Oh, I forgot 4's positive affirmation. I love. 5, throat chakra. Speaking and expression, I speak as its power. I speak, I put out into existence. You'll hear biblical talk as well as everywhere else, really, when you are less prejudiced about interpreting these things, that the throat is an extension of the heart. Turns out he was talking to you about some shit all that time, eh? So you must be careful about what kind of feelings, right? What kind of emotions, what kind of shit that you operate on, and not allow your words to change reality according to some temporary and often misguided notion that isn't in awareness and isn't in understanding, or in balance and expression of the whole. Would be unwise, wouldn't it? And of course, Number 6 then would be awareness. It would be the third eye chakra. Now there are actually 6 eyes that I can't go too far into right now. Most people acknowledge the third eye, the pineal gland. Okay? Its positive affirmation, of course, then, is I see. It's not an action, it's an observation. Okay? Number 7, the crown. The crown is Godhead, Christ consciousness, other terms that you might like, the 1,000-petaled lotus. The crown, of course, then becomes I understand. Understanding. And it's less about the words used, it's about the content, the structure behind it. And you'll find that our words, our language, is really a manipulation tool, really. It's giving and shaping energy. But in understanding that the words to express those things is unnecessary. Einstein didn't speak for the first several years of his life, and when he finally uttered something and they asked him about it, he said, I didn't see a need to. That's wisdom. Only when it was completely crucial to communicate, in the need of something from another person that you hadn't attained to be able to accomplish for yourself, did he decide to start interacting. And then he decided to share in great abundance all that he'd learned along the way. And here's a play on words that you should look into yourself rather than have me explain to you, that Einstein had said. Out of all the things I've learned, I learned the most when I wasn't in my right mind. So now let's look at this depiction-wise a little bit. Got some diagrams here, and I've got some questions that someone asked me that I'd like to go through as briefly as possible because I'm pressed for time, but really wanted to make a video today. So, first I'll show you a little simple allegorical chart on how the chakras flow and describe the Kundalini serpent that you might often hear about and misinterpret fear and skepticism and stiff. Okay, I'm almost done here. 2 and 1. Okay. You can see here, it's probably mirrored on your end because I'm using this silly iPhone right now. But you'll see 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Root, base, blah, 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 all the stuff I just said. Okay. The Kundalini serpent, the base of your spine. Now, you have something called the Sushumna. This is your spinal column. Okay, it's the center channel of which energy runs along. Meridian lines, all these extra mystic words just keep people most of the time from understanding the science behind it. So at the base of your spine, between your penis and your anus, your perineal gland, okay, your perineal gland, or taint, as someone would like to call it, a gooch, whatever, it's very silly. Now this is your root chakra. This is the space between your genitals and your anus, and it conducts a great heat, or energy, fire, if you will, that rises through the successive lessons and understandings if properly channeled and unblocked along the way. There are over and underachievements in these things, imbalances in people, that they are over or under, say, survival, that might come off as aggression instead of passion or action. It might come off as destructive, but doesn't necessarily need to be two halves of a perfect yin-yang. You know, light within the good within the dark, dark within the good, making up a whole of completely necessary forces that exist. Now, if you look at this diagram, you'll see this is the serpent, this is the root where it starts. It ascends, which would make this turning, right? Okay? It ascends, turning all of these cogs. Okay? If unblocked by prejudice and some of the lessons we are to learn. Now, you can activate, here's where the questions come in, say just the speaking chakra, without perfection, or some of them at the same time. Now, the questions that I had were comparing two individuals, and the person had asked me, why does this person use all 5 chakras, referring to the root through the throat, and sometimes all of them at the same time. And why does this other person, who I believe to be more powerful, only seem to be using 1 chakra at a time? It seems like they're very knowledgeable. Does that mean that they haven't attained as much, or are they more skilled in how they handle energy? Now, I've made several other observations towards this person with what chakras they dominantly use and personality types and stuff to compare basically lunar and solar energy or left and right brain dominance and stuff like that. But in addition to this, that is why I gave you this sort of understanding. A good thing to look up, will only take 10 minutes of your time. A children's cartoon called The Avatar, The Last Airbender. Type into YouTube, The Avatar, The Airbender, Chakras. And it will explain in a very simple way, showing many ponds of water, and how sticks and leaves and dirt and shit blocked the channels of the river flowing from one little bank to the next. And how it's necessary to overcome those blockages to properly channel your energy if he was to master all the elements and understandings in his incarnation. Immortality is perfected through mortality. So you start to understand that these things have to work in unison, or otherwise that the world, magic, science, people, those in the know, or even not in the know, will influence you and activate these, or let's say that you will react within them. We are multidimensional beings traveling through them constantly. Understanding this is very important, that you master the centers within yourself, that you start to get these ideas and you pay very close attention to your own behavior. How you are alone, how you are around certain people, the influential triggers, the sounds people make, even complete gibberish words hold power over you. If I say flippity floop, and I did it in the right tone, and with the right vowels mixed in there, it has a great effect on the body and the mind. I can make you more or less receptive, more or less tired, wherever I'm trying to lead you if I am a skilled speaker, because I speak with knowledge of the inner workings of how the body responds, and we are affected by waves. We are affected by sound and light and particular frequencies, and a voice is a frequency. And within a very wide range of frequencies we can produce with the human voice alone, and even greater through technology that's inaudible to the human ear. The vibration still registers and still affects, but is inaudible as an audio tone to you. Studies have also been done with frequencies of light to kill or attract bugs and all kinds of other things. So the very basic, even Roy G. Biv, as you were taught as a child, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, except for the top two, aren't the most beneficial of colors to think on, but are very close to the proper frequencies to align your chakras. Coming from the bottom up, red, root, aggression. Notice even the color scheme in jails and all kinds of other things. And then blue in hospital, the peace is so close to there, but not awareness, not attainment. They still want you to rely on them. But meanwhile, the color therapy, Google Chinese color therapy, protects that person a little bit, makes them a little more elevated. Whereas the browns and the blacks and the orange, or a little higher through ego and personality, the yellow, would affect people in that way subtly. So it's important that you listen to these subconscious signals and you observe what's going on in your life. So that's my interpretation on why one person was using more than one versus one at a time. I believe that he didn't properly ascend his kundalini. There are those who master their energy and their power and do it for those reasons, but a really skilled operator could have used less energy but lit up all the channels leading there. I believe that he was acting on reflex or necessity in that moment rather than consciously doing these things or unblocking the aggression factor of the root, the controlling need of the personalities and the illusions of separate shit that is me versus I am, we are, overcoming sexuality, overeating, overindulging in any one of these things and balancing these things, but also underindulging meant not having what you needed to get by. I hope this gives a little bit of understanding basics to the chakras. In later videos, I will go into the sounds and even comparing a lot of English terms, expressions we use that make no sense, silly things. We say expressions not just that are illogical, like I'd explain it to you but you wouldn't understand. Well, then I didn't really explain very well, did I? I hadn't finished the explanation, because once it's explained, it's known. And also certain words like power, and how it affects the body and the root sounds within them, and why our language might have evolved the way that it did and took the direction that it did, while our language is being systematically destroyed, and we're losing contacts with our roots, with this understanding of how things feel and are, before we overdeveloped our cognitive brains to be able to overanalyze and build extra rules and steps and blockages like ghosts and goblins ain't real, but really not understanding what they were trying to explain to you before we had physical equipment to measure and show you all of the same things. So in later videos I will elaborate even further on the sounds and usages of these things, on some of the technologies, and even proving to you in some experiments how you can do these technologies to yourself or to others and use this wisdom to your advantage. My name's Kevin Chaos, and I hope you liked my video.